face of the pandemic, sharing our work together. What I'm going to present to you this morning is work that is done by a cross-generational, cross-geographic, and cross-discipline team. The researchers are coming from Chile, Kenya, and the U.S. My name is Joanne Rolle. I'm the Dean of the School of Business at Medgar College, and my colleagues who have been working with me is Dr. Kisato, Dr. Crump, Dr. Reid, Dr. Acevedo, and Ms. Nia Rock. Today we're going to present to you our work on the future of teaching and learning and the Unscaled New World Economy. And I'm going to go to my slides now. I hope I'm able to share them successfully. Let's see. The future of teaching and learning in the Unscaled economy. I will first be talking about the trends in leaderships and the needs for the future, education in 2020 and the impact we believe of the pandemic, preparing for the Unscaled economy, transforming the academy in a world of uncertainty, the future choices of leisure and work, and developing ecosystems of lifetime learning and global collaborations. Trends in leadership needs for the future. This is a study that was done by the Deloitte consulting team in last year, and the report was released in the fourth quarter of last year. And what it says is that effective leadership is going to change worldwide. There's going to be a need to operate in changing demographics, higher customer expectations, and an influx of new technology, rapid paces of change, and that it is imperative to combine traditional expectations with new leadership competencies for organizational success. And I'm going to give you a specific quote out of the research document that really crystallizes for us what this research meant. It said that our research shows that while organizations expect new leadership capabilities, they are still largely promoting traditional models and mindsets when they should be developing skills and measuring leadership in ways that help leaders effectively navigate greater ambiguity, take charge of rapid change, and engage with external and internal stakeholders. And what the Deloitte researchers are saying is that many corporations and academic institutions understand that what is going to be required is different, and they're talking the talk, but they're not walking the walk. If you want to take a look at that report, I'm not going to page out to it, but it's you can Google it at Deloitte Trends in Leadership Report. And these are some of the key findings from that report. Many respondents in their survey, many corporate respondents in their survey, believe that there will be new leadership needs. And I'm talking about this because as educators, we need to be aware of the new needs and find ways of producing and meeting those new needs with our students. The number one need is the ability to lead through more complexity and ambiguity. Now, this is pre-pandemic. With the pandemic coming, the ambiguity is going to be greater. The complexity is going to be greater. None of us in humanity actually have gone through what we are going through now. So there's going to be a great need for leaders who are able to deal with the post-pandemic crisis. The ability to lead through influence. What is important now for the new workforce is to lead through inspiration, motivation, and not through the command and control that we once utilized for large organizations and even some of small organizations. The ability to manage in remote basis. Pre-pandemic, it was 50%. As you can all see worldwide, much of the world is working in remote working and distance learning. So that 50% number that they had at the end of the year is probably closer right now to 80, 90, or even 100% for non-essential workers. The ability to manage a workforce with a combination of human and machines. Because the technology is coming so fast and human labor is being substituted for some of the technology, it is imperative that the knowledge workers of the future are able to embrace the machine learning and not run away from it. And the ability to lead more quickly. Change is fast, has been fast previous to pandemic. As you can see now, many academic institutions who were face-to-face, brick and mortar, are scrambling to develop online learning environments, to develop remote learning environments, and many of them have shifted more gracefully. But you will find more and more in this post-pandemic world that leadership is expected to change fast. And the new context for leadership, the main driver, without a question, is the new technologies. And I'll talk a little bit more about what those technologies are in terms of what we know now. But the technology is being developed so fast. The innovation is coming so fast that we really don't know what some of the technologies are going to be 20 years out or even 5 years out. The technology is changing so fast. And that was the second driver, the pace of change. The technologies are coming and they're not staying the same over long periods of time as it once was. They are changing very fast, and they're changing demographics and employee expectations. When I give this presentation at other places, I talk about where the worldwide population is. The population spurts are in China, India, and Africa, but many of the innovators and the entrepreneurs of some of these technologies, they are in some other countries. So how do you get the technology, the innovations to where the labor force is, the mass amount of the labor forces, and changing customer expectations? With the new technology, customers are expecting different, better, more efficient, more effective products, and I might add that they are expecting them at lower price points. So I know you can't see this chart, and I'm just going to go through the first line so that you get a feeling for the new competencies and the context of those competencies that the leadership is going to be expected to deal with. The traditional leadership and expectation outcomes was the focus on the leader and the individual, the CEO's performance. But the new leadership competencies is going to be focused on leaders as members of a leadership team. How is that C-suite able to perform? How is the C-suite leveraging the rest of the organization? What is the performance of those teams and those teams that collaborate with other teams? And the new context is the pace of change, which we already talked about, and the demands that leaders work more closely with one another to be able to come up with integrated solutions in a more rapidly moving environment. And what this is talking about, many of us know the organizations where they're siloed, and the accounting department is working separately from the strategy department. So what this is saying is that because you're changing so fast, all of those teams will need to communicate, engage, and execute faster and together, collaborate together more. And so where there are gaps in leadership development right now is in transparency. Many times leadership at the top develop plans, and when it comes to executing, because the rank and file don't understand the why, the what is more difficult to execute. So more transparency is needed. Internal collaboration, I just talked about, collaboration between teams, performance management of the entire team and environment, and refreshing leadership from within. I want to talk just a second on this one because typically, especially when it comes to technology, there has been bidding of the labor force away from competition and even collaborators. But what this study found was the return on investment of taking your own workforce and giving them the professional development, the machine learning development, the knowledge skill development. You will have more loyalty and a longer and a higher return on investment as opposed to bringing in the coder who will stay for 2 years, get bored, and then go into another environment. So that was another interesting finding in the study. There was another study done by Fast Company, and it was on education in 2020, and that study was done 5 years ago. And here's some of the findings from there. And I just want to highlight this so that in the context of educators, it said students will interact with others remotely. Post-pandemic, we will see more and more of that. We see that now when many of the institutions are just going online and just developing remote learning activities, and the faculty is trying to catch up. What some of the students are doing is peer-to-peer learning. They're engaging with each other to help the learning process as worldwide we grow through this transformation. The success of tech will still rely on skilled teachers. We will still need the facilitators of teaching and learning to help students, but their function will be different than the Socratic method where we just tell the students what our lectures are. The students will be more engaged in their own learning process, and I will talk more about that when we talk about the unscaled economy. We'll think differently about diplomas. You will see now many major corporations are not requiring the 4-year, 3-year degree, but they're requiring that the students are able or the employees are able to perform. Case in point is the coding for Microsoft. What they will do is they will give the prospective employee a test or look for one of the certificates that says that they can code, and they're looking for performance-oriented delivery as opposed to credential-oriented delivery. Students will have a voice. I'll talk to you a little bit about self-directed learning, where students are saying more and more about how they want to narrow the focus of their learning, how they want their learning to be more niche oriented to some of their interests as well as some of the industry demands. Educators and institutions will be forced to adapt. We see this now. Many of the institutions that are scrambling during the pandemic, we believe we're going to see some shrinkage in the marketplace for a lot of different reasons. Many places, and I'm talking about in the developed world, in many places the enrollment has been decreasing, and educational institutions have been struggling to find what is their story, what is their niche, why should a student, a prospect, come to their institution as opposed to go to another institution. And with the advent of online learning, that competition is going to increase after the pandemic. So we believe that in the educational market is going to get better. I think get better at producing what both the student needs and what the industry needs. And by definition, we will need to become more agile and student and industry focused. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about the unscaled economy. The unscaled economy of the future includes a broad base of talent using technology such as artificial intelligence, cloud computing, 3D printing, virtual reality, and later augmented reality. And let me just add, this is what we know about now. There's a lot of innovation and technology in the pike. There's some that's in the labs right now. So this is not an all-inclusive list, but this is just what I'm talking about through some of the work that we have worked with. I'll also tell you that instead of cloning homogeneous labor forces to support the demands of mass production, more diverse, creative, and agile entrepreneurial teams or persons will cost effectively produce for a niche market, even as small as units of one, where we have the solopreneurs. And that is from the work of M.E.C. And we really embrace his work because we believe for those in the underserved markets that this is truly going to be an opportunity to compete in a place where we did not have options to complete because of the factors of production needing to be large. You will need less capital, less labor, and of course, less land. And post-pandemic, many corporations are going to find that they don't need the massive buildings that they have, that they can run their organizations with their employees being other places, including their homes, and therefore the footprints of some of these organizations may decrease. So the modes of teaching and learning, I'm not going to talk a whole lot about formal education because most of you know about formal education. What I really want to talk about is this self-directed ultra learning. Many of the young students that we have are opting to learn what they want faster. And the example I'm using is Scott Young. He's the author of Ultra Learning. It's a new book that he put out. But what he did was he took the entire MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, computer science curriculum. He studied it in 1 year. He took the assessments and passed them in 1 year. His major was a liberal arts major before, but he wanted to become a coder. And rather than waiting 4 years for the MIT degree, he elected to do it himself. You know, I have a clip with him talking, but I don't want to go out because I'm cognizant of my time. I've used half of it already, and I really do want to get through the rest of the presentation. But you can Google him in his YouTube presentation. His name is Scott Young. All right. And industry collaborations. What we are finding is that the industry, because they need this labor force more advanced, because they need this labor force faster, they're doing more and more collaborations with the colleges. Here at City University of New York, IBM, International Business Machines, is collaborating with our curriculums in computer science. We are investing more in developing more tech career ready students. We have a program called CUNY 2X, where we're looking to double the number of computer science graduates, and there's all kinds of foundation and public and private sector funds that are put into that program so we can increase the number of tech graduates. Industry collaboration in AI. I want to talk about Medgar and the City University of New York. And one of our partners is a European vendor called 24/7 Office. They have a artificial intelligence accounting platform, and we also collaborate with a CPA review simulation vendor. And the reason we're collaborating with them is because we would like for our accounting students to learn before they go outside how to work with the new technology. And it's not the software itself, the platform itself that's important. What's important is they understand that in the future, they will be expected, even in accounting, to work with machine learning. Yes, I apologize. I'm just trying to go to the next slide now. Yes. Impact investing in education and learning. So you find that the vendors or the partners are collaborating. They're investing. The platforms that we're using are multi-million-dollar platforms. And once the students learn how to operate on the platforms, they will have both internship opportunities and employment opportunities, and not just with the vendor, but with the vendor clients. So this is an opportunity to get career ready and learn much sooner some of the technology that's coming down the pike. So it's the academy and industry capacity building for mutual benefit of both institutions. I'm not going to go through this much. This is one of a slide from the AI powered accounting. And what is happening is that the AI powered accounting are doing some of the rote transactions, the lower level transactions. You will still need the accountants to do the higher level transactions and to monitor what is going on. And I'm just going to give you a CEO a quote from one of the corporations that's using AI in accounting now. And what he said is, now we spend perhaps 80% of the time putting data and numbers into the accounts and 20% on analysis and advice. In 1 to 2 years, I think half of the manual process associated with the accounts have been automated. And so that is going to happen more and more across the spectrum. The change in the demand for labor and workforce and work versus leisure. So we forecast that there is going to be a less demand for manual labor and a higher demand for knowledge workers. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity for those who have learned to work with the technology that's coming forward. The demand for manual labor, however, and we've already started to see this, is going to decrease, and that's because technology could do some of those lower level functions. Yes. The automation and digitalization will be universal skills. So if there's a place to invest the learning of our students, it's in automation and digitalization skills. Okay, and so now I'm going to go and talk about the ecosystems of lifetime learning and global collaborations. You know, once we thought we got the first degree, the second degree, and even the third degree, that learning not necessarily would stop, but there wouldn't be a need for continuous learning at the intensity that we once had. That is going to change. We believe that learning will continue to, especially for the knowledge learners, will continue throughout our lifetimes. There is a global wealth and income disparity. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. We have done several papers on that worldwide. We believe the focus on the unscaled economy and solo entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in this new economy will not make those disparities go away, but will give more opportunity to those who are not in the upper and the middle to move up a little bit. So we believe that will reallocate some of the resources. Yes, exploring options for increasing the utilization of global diverse talent. There's a worldwide demand for knowledge workers, and they are not concentrated on any one continent. So you will find that corporations will be seeking out talent all over the world, and that talent will be able to sit in place. It was at one point that a lot of the talent was in one place, and they would be transformed to a different country. That is not going to be the case. What is going to be the case is these international global teams will be cross-matrix oriented, and the talent can stay in place. Hope for the future of technology and entrepreneurial innovations. We truly believe that entrepreneurship, in terms of economic development, for developing and developed countries, is the story for the future. Unity in community and capacity building. Now, here I want to take a minute to say this global pandemic has touched every facet and fabric of most lives in the world. When we go to the point of rebuilding, it is going to require public and private partnerships. The government cannot do it alone. Another paper, we talked about much of the wealth has gone from the public sector to the private sector. And so we will need corporate social responsibility and individual social responsibility to come forth to help rebuild the labor force and some of the assets that have been impacted or will be impacted by the pandemic. And let me talk just for a second on the need for improved global listening. I am on the board of the Global Listening Center, which is actually headquarters out of India. And typically, when we're talking about working across cultures, working across generations, working across countries, there are some differences. But we believe that if we take more time and listen to each other and try to understand the context of each other, that our outcomes will be improved. And so rather than talking at each other, we are advocating worldwide listening to each other. And so I'm coming to the conclusion of my paper, of our work, that we've been doing this for some time now, and we've been looking at this for some time. And what we see in terms of the pandemic is just going to accelerate what we have talked about in the past. To develop new effective leaders, we need new methods of teaching. Many of us were taught in a way that we will have to not necessarily unlearn, but learn new methods in order to be effective in this dynamic, changing global economy. To meet the new dynamic marketplace demands, students must learn how to learn. The pace of change in the technology is changing so fast. If you learn one application today and that you just learn it by rote memory and you don't know how to learn another one, you will be handicapped. So it's important not just to rote memorize in terms of the learning, but to really understand how you as an individual learn. And different people have different learning styles. And it's important that the students learn how they learn. Okay, I'm coming closely to the end. Our choice and options for work will increase, especially for those who are knowledge learners, and lifelong learning will increase in the unscaled economy. We will have to continue to learn over and over until as we continue to contribute. And the good news is, once we get past this pandemic, we will be living longer because of the technology. There is amazing health innovations that will allow us to live longer. But many of the jobs and careers that we have today will go away. So it's important for us to understand where we're going to fit in this new unscaled economy. And even if we decide that we no longer want to work, there will be options for us in terms of how we spend our leisure time. And so with that, I wanted to talk just briefly about industry and academic partnerships. We'll accelerate the teaching and learning. We'll have public and private sector. I believe my time is up, and I think that's the end for me. So I'm going to mute. Should I mute now? Hello? Yes. Yes, that's the end of my formal presentation. So I'm trying to figure out So how do I give it back to you? Oh boy.